I really think it would benefit all citizens to spend 3-4 days in space. Do nothing, just look out the window and understand that the Earth is one and that we're all connected. My name is Robert Thirsk. I'm a former Canadian Space Agency astronaut. I grew up in Western Canada, born in New Westminster, BC, but because of my father's occupation, we moved all over Western Canada. When I was a grade 3 student, our teacher told us that in mid-morning she was going to turn on the classroom radio. Our teacher explained we were listening to the voice of an astronaut. His name was John Glenn, and he was in space at that moment. He had just launched to space about an hour ago. It was set in my brain about becoming an astronaut someday. And so the rest of my education, high school, university, was focused on a career path towards space. 1983, opened up the newspaper, and there was an ad in the middle of the newspaper that said, "Astronauts wanted." I applied, but so did 4,000 other people. And for some reason, the Canadian Space Agency chose me and 5 other people as well. About 10 years into the Canadian astronaut program, we were just sitting down for family dinner. My parents were actually there in addition to my wife and my kids. Got a phone call from my boss, and he said, "We did it, you did it. You've been selected by an international peer group of scientists to be part of this 17-day, record 17-day space shuttle mission." They could just tell from my response on the phone and the goofy grin on my face that this was good news. The evening before, we had been with our families, laughing, upbeat, making jokes, but also knowing this hug might be the last hug that we ever do. The next morning we got up very early, it was still dark. Got suited up, get in the van, and then head out to the launch pad. The Space Shuttle Columbia was on the launch pad. I'd been in the Columbia on several occasions before, but this morning was different because this morning the rocket was being fueled, and the fuel is cold. And it's causing all this creaking and groaning, and joints are expanding and contracting. And you get the impression that the Columbia is a living creature and just as eager to get off the launch pad as we are. The support crew leave, the hatch is closed, the pressure check is done to make sure that the hatch is sealed. At that point, the cockpit becomes sterile, which means that all conversation is very operationally oriented, very concise. The main computer ignites the 3 main engines that are tucked underneath the tail, and the whole shuttle stack begins to vibrate. The computer sends a command to the 2 solid rocket boosters to ignite. They look like Roman candles on either side of the shuttle stack, and they immediately reach full power. Now you've got 6 million pounds of thrust, but there's these 8 bolts that are this size that are holding the shuttle down to the launch pad. At T = 0, they explode. There's now nothing holding the shuttle down to the launch pad, and we jump off the launch pad. In 2 minutes, we're 40 kilometers high, 45 kilometers offshore. We jettison the 2 solid rocket boosters. As we reach orbit, we go from 3 Gs to 0 Gs in a fraction of a second. With deceleration, our legs and our arms are flung forward, release the seat harness, float around the inside of the cockpit. A lot of hooting and hollering because we've just done something that is one of the more dangerous things that human beings do, and we survived. Looked out the window, and in my first view, and this chill went down my spine. I can still remember the chill because it was so stunningly beautiful. The sun was glinting off the ocean, And beyond the ocean was the curved horizon of the Earth, and then beyond the curved horizon was inky black space. And I could really appreciate that Earth, it's a solitary planet alone for hundreds of millions of kilometers, nothing else around. And I was up there looking down on it. And how many people have ever had that opportunity? A couple of years ago, my wife and I were having dinner with some friends. One of our dinner guests asked if I had returned to normal following my last space flight. And I quickly responded, yes, I've returned to normal. But my wife jumped in and she said, no, you have not returned to normal. Psychologically, you have never returned from spaceflight. So we all laughed at my wife's comment, and what I meant when I responded to our guest's question about whether or not I had returned to normal, I was speaking from a physiological perspective. But my wife is right, from a psychological perspective. Looking out the window changed my perspective of what civilization and society is all about, and what the priorities should be for me, for my family, for society as well. You know, for the first week that I was in space, I felt Canadian. I had the maple leaf on my flight suit. And then maybe the second week, you know, Canada sort of faded into the background, but I was aware of North America, my home continent, because I'd traveled throughout North America. I knew it very well. And after the third week and thereafter, I was still proud to be a Canadian, but this notion of citizenship with a nation seemed to me to be irrelevant. And I seemed mostly to be a citizen of this global humanity. I think about some of the isolationist and nationalistic tendencies today, and I think we're making a mistake there. We need a cross-border approach. We need a one humanity approach to solve the biggest challenges for us, which are overpopulation, poverty, inequality, and then environmental damage. These are big problems. We need everyone working together, everyone collaborating together. Of course, I'm still proud to be a Canadian, but I'm just as proud to be a world citizen and eager to tackle some of these big problems that are out there.